All right, now we are lucky enough to be joined by the head coach of the Auburn Tigers, the #1 team in all the land. Bruce Pearl, thanks so much for giving us a few minutes of your time. When we were leaving the Tennessee game the other night, after we turned our stories, I turned on the Field of 68 After Dark with Jeff Goodman and Rob Doster, and I listened to your appearance on there. And they were going back to back when you were having your radio show on Sirius XM. You hosted it with Goodman. And after you took the Auburn job in 2014, he said, Bruce, what are you doing? That's the worst Power 5 job in America. And you still took the risk. You took the challenge. You took the opportunity. What was your vision for this job 10 years ago?
Back in 2014, I wasn't sure I was going to get back into coaching. I was serving a 3-year show cause. I was on top at Tennessee, or close to being on top. Got knocked off, was embarrassed about the way it all ended and making some mistakes and then having it cost myself and my coaching staff and my family, just let so many people down. It was really devastating. And I just wasn't sure I wanted to get back into it. But Auburn came calling. And my wife told me, honey, put that jacket on. You're Auburn's basketball coach. How does it feel? Now take it off. I put the coat on. I kind of felt how it would feel, and maybe can I get back into this thing and keep making a difference in people's lives, so on and so forth. And I missed the game. I missed the locker room. And so I took the job. I wasn't worried about whether or not Auburn could win championships. I saw them winning championships in everything else. And I saw Auburn sort of being an everything school, everything except men's basketball. And I said, you know what, if we can go there and we could just be competitive and do a good job, that'll be a pretty good accomplishment.
What you've built here, Neville Arena, you got one of the best home atmospheres in all of college basketball. You got kids camping out 3-4 days before home games, one of the highest ticket prices in the country. I mean, at what point along the journey did it kind of resonate with you that, oh, we've arrived on a national level?
Well, it probably took the run to the Final Four before you could really say we can compete with anybody and everybody. But it was the early years that laid a foundation. And I told the guys when I first took the job in 2014, they're going to look back at this team and they're going to say, that group got it started. That team finished near the bottom of the SEC and historically went to Nashville and won 3 straight games to play in the semifinals, to get to a Saturday game against Kentucky. It was like a varsity versus a JV game. I had walk-ons starting, and that team laid the groundwork. And obviously we built it with great players, great kids, great characters, and a coaching staff that's primarily been together since the day I got here.
You mentioned that Final Four run. What did that do from a staying power, name recognition standpoint for this Auburn basketball program, where you're bringing in guys like Jabari Smith, Walker Kessler, Jalen Williams, recruiting at a high level, sending kids to the NBA after Auburn hadn't done it in so long? I mean, what did that Final Four run really do to cement the legacy and the staying power of this university?
To send the kids locally, whether it be in Atlanta or in Alabama or you don't have to go to Kansas or Kentucky or North Carolina, Duke, to win a national championship, to develop into a pro, and to not have a great college basketball experience. And that's what's happening in the SEC. We used to lose, the SEC used to lose players to the powerhouses in college basketball throughout the country. We're not losing any of those players anymore. In fact, we can go anywhere in the country because we are the best league in the country, and by a wide margin.
Let's talk a little about your team this year. Johni Broome, potential Naismith Player of the Year candidate. He's taken his game to the next level. Defensively, he's added a 3-point shot. His passing ability is about as good as any big I've ever seen in college basketball. As his head coach, what's it like to get to coach that guy each and every day, and how fulfilling is it for you personally to see what kind of player he's become?
In many ways, this team is the American dream, because it's made up of guys like Johni Broome that was ranked 371st coming out of high school, that couldn't get on any shoe company summer league team out of Tampa, Florida, that had to come up the hard way. And I think that's a great story about the American dream. You know, he just went to Moorhead, did a great job, came here, did a great job. His goal was to be an All-American. He was. And now he's in the running for National Player of the Year. And success hasn't changed him. But you look up and down our roster. Dylan Carwell did not play much his junior year in high school at Oak Hill and then wasn't allowed to play his senior year. And he just stayed and became one of the greatest ambassadors in the history of Auburn athletics as a student athlete and as a minister. And now he's having a monster year. Half the guys on the team have already graduated, and so they've earned their degrees. We've had 43 players in the last 11 years earn their degrees. I will tell you right now, there's not a Power 5 school in America that can, I don't even think, come close to that, or at least certainly not match it.
You've got a lot of personalities on this team that love winning, they love playing together, and they're emotional. As a coach who's done it for a long time, how do you coach on that edge of letting them play with that passion and emotion, which allows them to go out and execute each and every night, and making sure that they're not too passionate or too over the edge?
Yeah, there's a fine line. And I do want my teams to celebrate. I want them to have some joy. We work so hard. These are still kids. And so there's a fine line between beating LSU at LSU and Janai dancing with the cheerleaders after the game and having fun versus taunting your opponent. And there's a fine line in there. And I don't want to cross that line because I want to respect our opponent, but I also want to have some joy to the game. We're a target. My teams have been criticized for dancing too much and celebrating too much. And not only does it work, and I don't do it because it works. These kids work really hard, and I want them to have some joy.
One of the cool things about our job in Birmingham is we get to cover both you and Alabama. Number 1, number 3 in the country as we're taping this. This is going to air next week before the game in Tuscaloosa. I'm not going to ask you the generic question about, what does it mean for basketball in Alabama, but I'm interested in your 11 years here. How have you seen the rivalry evolve in a basketball sense?
Well, I mean, it's always been a great rivalry, but now that the two teams are nationally ranked and competing for national championships and league championships, it does just mean more. Let's face it, SEC basketball around the country has not been always known as being the best basketball, and certainly Auburn and Alabama would not be the two teams that you would pick to be the flagship programs of the SEC in men's basketball. Well, they are now. And so, to the victor go the spoils. I want to beat Alabama. Our fans want to beat Alabama. The players want to beat Alabama. And Alabama wants to beat Auburn as much as they want to beat anybody else. But, I also want to beat Kentucky. And I also want to beat Tennessee. And I also want to beat Georgia. I mean, so there are other great rivalries in this league, but that game does mean more.
This Saturday at Coleman Coliseum is going to be your first time coaching against Aiden Holloway, obviously a guy that was a member of that team that made an SEC tournament run for you, a key piece of that team. Now he's playing for the rival. I know earlier in the year you said that's like if Alabama's quarterback transferred to Auburn. Is that going to be weird? Is there any insights you can gain from knowing him and his skill set, or for your guys who were teammates of him, how strange is that going to be?
Well, I'm just glad that Aiden's having a great year, and I'm glad that we're having a great year, and I'm glad that it's worked out for both of us.
New York City, tri-state area kids, especially guards, there's just a level of grit and toughness to them. And when I watch Tahad Pettiford play, the word I just think of is tenacity. Can you talk about the recruitment of him and what it's like to be able to have a chess piece out there that is an absolute dog in every sense of the word?
Well, his dad's a tough guy. His mom's a sweetheart. He's got the best of both worlds. He's got unbelievable support from his family. His dad sent him to Auburn to be coached by me and Ira Bowman, to be coached the right way, to be coached hard, to hold him accountable. It's been a joy to coach him. He wants to get better. And he's got a chip on his shoulder. He's not afraid, but he's got something to prove.
Finally, you talk about that target on your back now. You've been the number 1 team for 4+ weeks. You got one of the deepest rosters in the country. I just looked before I got in here. The odds makers in Vegas have you winning the national title. Is that pressure you guys think about? Do you welcome it, or do you think about what it would mean to win a national title here at Auburn?
I don't think in February you think about that. I think you think about the next game, and you think about what can we do to make this team better and make sure the guys doing the right things off the floor and getting their bodies right and spending time with the Lord and making sure they're taking their academic things. You just focus, live in the moment, I think is the best thing. That's the best way you can control what the next outcome. And if that's what God's plan is for this basketball team, I'd be okay with it.